Hello, this is Web Development Lesson 3. I believe we left off at Project 3. So, do any of you want to share your code for Project 3? If you would like to share your code, you can raise your hand or just pop your code in the chat. Okay, guess we'll be moving on then. So, today we will be jumping right into JavaScript. JavaScript is sort of different from HTML or CSS in that it does not visually give you anything of a scripting language, which means that you give commands to the computer and the computer does specific tasks according to those commands. So the purpose of JavaScript is to interact with the DOM, the document object model, which is basically the current HTML that is present in a web page. So if I do Control Shift I and bring up inspect, then I can see this is the DOM. So we have the body here, we have several iframes, but if I go to the view source, which is basically what the browser is displaying at first, then I see that it looks way different from what I'm seeing over here. That is because this page, Google Slides, uses JavaScript to change what is being displayed using HTML. It changes, in essence, the actual HTML of the web page. However, if I load the web page up on another tab or like another device, it is just the original web page. JavaScript only influences what you're seeing as the person who's visiting the web page. So JavaScript was made by Brendan H. in 10 days for Netscape because back then, Netscape was competing for dominance in basically the market for web browsers, and they wanted a way for people to be able to make their web pages interactive and make it so that you can submit like forms without having to send requests back to a server, which actually took very long back then. So JavaScript was designed to run on Netscape 2.0 on the user's computer to validate requests going to the backend. So I see someone gave us their code. I am going to, try it out then. Oh, okay. So, okay. So, is that working on your end? Okay, I will try and pop this right into the HTML then. And let's try that again. Okay, Just something went wrong here. Oh, sorry, I was opening the wrong style.css. So, very good. You're using class and you have two declarations. Okay, going back to JavaScript. So JavaScript syntax, which is how you write it and basically the language rules, is also different from HTML and CSS. So displaying information, you have something called the console here. Oh, okay, so Google has a ton of errors and stuff in here. So let's just ignore that for now. Okay, so to display information, the console is basically what developers use to debug. So if I don't open inspect, I will not be able to see any of this. Like if you make a website with JavaScript and you use console.log to display information, you can only see it if you open the console. Purpose of the console is to give the developer something to see what their code is doing. So if the console here, I can also run code. So if I run console.log, say hello, and you see in the next line, it immediately gives me a hello. That's because the console.log function is, in essence, putting something into the console. And another way to display output, okay, for now, we're not getting into DLMs for now. So is the window.alert. What that does is it makes a little pop-up. The problem with these, you cannot like change anything about them except text on them. So you can't like style them. And they're just for things like, are you okay with the browser doing this, or are you okay with the browser doing that? In a real website application, it's probably not such a good idea to use window.alerts prompts for input and output. So I'm sure you have seen some kind of message like this before, but you see the browser just gave me a pop-up that says hello. So it's basically just a really simple way to give the user output that does not interfere with like the next window.alert or any input at all. So here in this line or in this line, you can see that I have this here, which is a function. It just think of it as a black box. We don't know what's inside, but we just know that it displays something. Now, here we're giving it something to display. We're passing something into window.alert. So that is called the argument. And notice that if we do something like window.alert hello, first of all, it does not turn orange like that one did, which means that usually something is wrong. So notice if I run this, I get an error. Hello is not defined. Because in JavaScript, for all types of text input and output, you need to use double quotes like these, or just single quotes, or backticks, which they're kind of special. They can do like multi-line strings. So I can have hello, and it converts to a string with backtick n, which means just new line. We'll get more into that later. So everything, all text needs to be in double quotes or single quotes for backticks. So the interface that I've been using for quite a while now is Chrome Inspect, also called Chrome DevTools. So what you want to do is press Control Shift I or Command Shift I if you're on a MacBook, and it just brings up the console. Oops. So, you can just run simple JavaScript code in the console. You can look at all the error messages if you want. Like if I go to about blank, that's basically like a blank canvas for me. If I open the console, you see there are no error messages. I can just use this to test some code. So that being said, let's move on to project one for JavaScript. Um, so this time we will actually be using a different respiratory. So this one, we just have different JavaScript files, and we have like run project one, run project two, run project three. This is just to make things a bit simpler for you. Oh, like, okay. So I want you to go to this respiratory, and like you did before, hit fork. I cannot fork because this respiratory belongs to me, and then create a code space of that respiratory. If you're having any trouble, just pop your question in the chat. Okay, raise your hand if you have successfully forked this repository. I will take that as a yes. Okay, I will show you guys the next step. So go to code spaces on the left panel and click new code space over here. Select a repository, find its name static dev. So I will click that option and create code space. Okay, now raise your hand if you're not where I am right now. Well, okay, Steven just posed a question. How can I stop running a code face? So say here's the code face. I want to stop. I just click into the terminal here, make sure it's selected and hit Control and C or Command C if you're on the MacBook. So as you see, it's back to the regular terminal. If you cannot create a new terminal because like it says code spaces are still running, then you can just you see here's one of my active code spaces. I can just go to the three dots and stop code space. Okay, again, raise your hands if you have not gotten where I am right now. How are you done? Are you having any trouble? Since like nobody else is raising their hands, I'm going to assume that you are all done. So I will assume that you are all here where I am. So click into 1.js and you can start doing project one. So here, this is just a regular JavaScript file. You can just like type in your code. So say I went to Windows alert, hello, from, and then we go down here, do npm start, and then we can open this and run project one. And as you see, the alert pops up. So print hello world in the console, and then open up the console to see your hello world, and then use window.alert to tell a story. Since you can stack window.alert, if you stack window.alerts like this, um, only one shows up at a time, so you can stack them to create sort of like a slide deck or like cards. So I will give you seven, I'll say 7 minutes to do this, starting now. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. Okay, so we are around 3 minutes in. So I want to see how many of you have finished so far. So raise your hand if you are finished. Okay, raise your hand if you still need more time. Raise your hand if you still need more time. We have around 2 minutes, 30 seconds left. Okay, so I'll assume that nobody needs more time. Does anyone want to share their code? You can just like pop it in the chat if you want. Oh, okay. So I'll take this one first. We'll see if I click run project one. Yes, hello world, good. So let's see. If you think about it, the only reason foods are so big is that humans genetically engineered them to be. We developed a way to control evolution with manual selection, and we played gods. We killed off all the plants that were inedible and made those plants edible. Anything non-edible was labeled a weed. Think about that. Thanks for listening. Very good. Okay. I'll use this one next. Let's hope that updated. Okay, so hello world. Okay. This is the periodic table. Noble gases table. Halogens and alkali react aggressively. Bye. Okay, good. So you're actually learning something. Okay, moving on. So we already kind of went over strings, but another thing is joining strings. So if we have two strings that we want to put together, this becomes kind of important when we have user input, where the user input is also a string. So if we have like name two people and the user enters like Alice and Bob, then we can put Alice and Bob here and then plus, and then are my two neighbors. And that will output something like Alice and Bob are my two neighbors. So that's just a way to put strings together. You use the plus sign. It's basically the second string is added to the end of the first. And for for numbers, you do not need to put quotation marks around them. If you want to like add, subtract, multiply, divide, or like actually do any math with them, you do not put quotation marks around them. So we have integers and decimals in JavaScript. Those are basically the only ways JavaScript stores numbers, unless you want to go advanced and say like, oh, begin. So anyways, we have something like 423. That's a number. Is we can do operations like 423 plus 5. We can also use decimals. So like 5.5 plus 2, 7.5. So if you think about it, you can also just use JavaScript console as calculator if you want. The only problem is that JavaScript sometimes like calculate stuff like kind of weirdly because it like converts everything to binary and the operations in binary, then converts it back to base 10, which is like decimal form, which sometimes makes things like really funky. Like if I do like 23 divided by boom 6, you see it rounds it to 3.8333335. If I go to Desmos, you- uh, 3 over 8 over 6. We see it's just JavaScript trying to round it actually just is 33333 forever. And instead of rounding to a 4, JavaScript is actually trying to round to 5 because of something that happened during the binary conversion. So if you're converting things like using division for big numbers and you know there's going to be a ton of decimal points, it's a good idea to cut it off somewhere so you don't have these errors. But you do not need to worry about that for now. Okay, so using the plus sign is kind of ambiguous in JavaScript as you can join strings and numbers using it. So if you're just adding numbers, then you want both numbers to be outside of quotation marks so that they're treated as numbers, like here. But see, if we have 3 in the quotation marks plus 2, that will give us 32. I will can actually demonstrate this. 3 plus 2, and you see that gives us 32 in a string. That's because what JavaScript is doing, it's saying, oh, here's a string, and I want to add a number to it. I can't do that. Like just like I can't add owl to 2. Like I can't get a number with that. So what JavaScript does, instead of a string 3 plus a number 2, it just converts everything to a string because it's easier that way. So what JavaScript is actually seeing is I want to add the string 3 and the string 2. And if I go back here, that's just joining the two strings together. So basically it's a 3 and then a 2, which is 32 in a string. So we do not want that. If you're doing operations, just do not use quotation marks. If you're taking user input for a number, use number, which is another function. Big box, we do not need to worry about what goes on inside. So if we put in a string, it gives us 4 as a number. So later this will come in kind of useful. So no matter what, like if we're even joining 3 and then a 2 and then a 2, it's going to give us 322 because it's just into a taking everything, converting it to a string, and then putting it together. So if you're adding stuff, be careful of that. And then Booleans. So Booleans are basically just yes or no questions. So for example, is 5 greater than 3? And it says true. Is 3 less than 5? If 5 greater than 6, false. So basically we just have 5 basic Boolean operators, a greater than sign, the less than sign, the equal sign, which is actually two equals because when we do variables, we'll use the one equal sign. So for the equal sign, we can do something like 23 is equal to 23, and that will be true. 23 is equal to 24, that will be false. And notice here that if we do 24 is equal to 24, actually gives true. That's because the double equal sign does not care about type. It just, in a sense, it also converts this 22 to a string and compares them because one of them is a string. So it's looking at a string 24 and a number 24, but it's like these are the same thing. That says true. But if we don't want that, if we want it to actually differentiate between types, we can do something like the triple equal sign. So 24 is equals to 24. So that's actually 3 equal signs. And that now gives false. But if we do something like 24 as a number is equal to 24, that gives true again because these two are of the same type. Same goes if we both are strings. So that's true again. So that will also kind of factor in when we get to user input. We also have less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. And for now, just do these on purely numbers because it kind of gets wacky if you try it on strings and stuff. So now variables. Variables are like labeled boxes. So if I want to store a variable, say, um, I want to put the I want to put the word I want to put the word chicken into a variable. Like I just put it, oops. If I just wanted to put it in a big box and set it aside, I can do let animal equals chicken. Oh, sorry, chicken in quotation marks because it's a string. So what we have right now is like one of these boxes on the front, it just says chicken. Oh, sorry, it says animal, and inside is chicken. So later, when we want to reference what animal is, we can open it up and see chicken inside. So if we put 24903 as the ID, so we basically put 24903 into a box labeled ID. And then later, when we want to see, oh, what's the ID? We can just look at that box that's called ID. We pull it out and we open it, and inside there's 24903. So we know, oh, that's the ID. And that's useful because you don't really store things like user input unless you're going to use it in the future. And if you're going to store it, you need to use a variable. So that basically puts it in the memory so you can access it later. So there are three ways to define a variable: let, constant, and var. So I already showed you let. So the difference between let and var is that let is scoped, which means it only works within a certain range. It's like a not so powerful thing, and var is just you can access it from anywhere. So if all of this is like condensed, so I can't really pick out any variables, but say I do AB, and apparently that's stored as a string called iframe by Google Slides. So what that is, it's basically a box that's labeled AB and it has iframe right inside the box. And Google uses it for something. I do not know what it uses it for, but I would say this is an unscoped variable because I can access it from the console, which means that something if I have something around it, like I have a function, which we'll learn later, or like an if statement, and I just declare the variable inside, then it's only useful within the if statement. So good rule of thumb is if I have curly braces, like there's literally anything here, and then there's curly braces, and I do let say like thing equals 5, then I cannot access thing here. This will come out as undefined because I declared it in here, and this is outside the curly braces, so I can no longer see what this is. But if I do var, then that means that no matter where I am, then I can access the thing. Oh, it's better just to use let unless you truly need something that like transpires across everything, because with var it's unscoped, so I can access the variables from the console. Potentially, a hacker can use that to hack into a like website. So just use let for things unless you need it to be unscoped. And then const is basically it's scoped just like let, but it's constant. You can't change it. So if I say const user equals Bob, and then later I want to set user to Sally, that's not going to work because like I already set user to something and it's a constant, so I can't change it anymore. So, and then I try and set user to Sally, and it gives me an error. It says assignment to constant variable. It's saying you can't do that. It's a constant. You can't assign it again. So if I try and get user again, it's still Bob because I can't set user to anything after I declare it as a const. So you can set variables except constants after you declare them. So if I say let count, sorry, 3, and then I say count is equal to count times 2, what it's doing right now is it's saying I want to read the value of count, what is in the box labeled count, and that's 3. So this is basically, we can replace that with a 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So we're just setting count to 6, and then see what count is, and yeah, I said 6. We can also just set count to like a number, 23, and JavaScript does not care if I want it now to set it to like a string. I can set it to whatever data type I want. So assignment can be done with like literally everything except constants. So conditionals, as I just mentioned like 2 minutes ago, we have if statements, which is selection. So you're taking a Boolean, seeing if it's true. If so, we want to run a specific like part of code. So say I want to make a program that asks the user if they want boba. So I will like wants boba equals true because I want boba. So then if wants boba, then curly braces. Now in here, if I declare a variable, because with let, then because it's scoped, I can't access it outside. So if wants boba, then do.alert. So if I run that, it says this user wants boba. Now I can also do if wants boba is equal to false. And there are better ways to do this. So do not do this in the future after you learn a good way to do this. Um, so I'm just checking if it's false, then I window dot alert this user does not want. And so like now if I say false, it says this user does not want boba. So this code only runs this code here only runs if once boba is false. This code only runs if once boba is true. So notice here, I could have also done like is equal to true, but that's unnecessary because once boba is already a Boolean. So when JavaScript runs this, what it's seeing is false, if false, which is like it's not gonna run this. But then like this is once boba is false. So false is equal to false. And since they're identical, it's saying, oh yes, that's true overall because false is the same thing as false. So then it's saying, oh, I need to run this code now. So we we have also else ifs and else. So basically the syntax is if if something like wants boba, then window dot alert boba user wants boba. Else if so this part only runs if wants boba is not true. So if this runs, then it will not check to see anything else. But if it does not run, then it keeps going down and checking what's going on here. So window dot alert, oh, sorry. So say wants red equals true. This user wants red instead. Hmm. And you can stack as many if else's else if you can do if and then as many else ifs as you want. So I can have like if an if statement and then say like 100 else ifs. And then at the end I can have else, which is just if none of the above are correct, then what do I do? Then I can say like something like this user does not want anything at all. So I have this example here. So since the greeting is hello and the user is Sam Doggo, and when this code runs, JavaScript is saying, oh, is the user of the builder? And since they're not identical, it says no and does not run this. And then it goes over here and says, oh, so is the user Lucy Lore? And because it's not, it does not print hello Sam, which does not make sense because I think that's a typo. And then it goes down and says, else if the user is David Doggo, and the greeting is going to be hello David. But then none of the above are true. So then it just goes to else and it says greeting is hello unknown person. So here if I run this code, it will give me hello unknown person because Damn Doggo is not any of these. He does not satisfy any of these conditions. So because I have an else statement here, greeting is going to be changed no matter what. So no matter what user is, I actually can never get a hello exclamation mark as an output to this program because your user is either going to be Bob the Builder, Madden named Matthew, David Doggo, or someone else. So eventually the greeting is going to be changed somewhere along the line, no matter what user is. So you cannot get hello from this. Just keep that in mind. Do not use some like a default value and expect it to be still that default value at the end of the code if you have an else statement. So now we have finally user input. So instead of just setting variables, we can use a window.prompt. So this is really similar to window.alert. I am just going to show this. Do you want chocolate? And it gives me a text box that I can like type anything in. So then since I entered that and hit enter, it, it now returns that. So I can store the user input in a variable, say let likes chocolate equals window.prompt likes do you like chocolate? And if I say yes, then likes chocolate is going to be yes. So now I can see if, say, like likes chocolate is equal to yes, and put that inside an if statement. So if likes chocolate is equal to yes, then I can say, oh, oops, user likes chocolate. So then it says this user likes chocolate because likes chocolate is equal to yes. That's true. So we can use this. There's also like a second input, so we can do window.prompt question default answer. And you see the default answer is already put into this text box for me. So you can use an if statement and user input to get different cases and discover like something about your user, and your program can act accordingly. Okay, so we only have 4 minutes left of class. Use this time and start project two. So on here, click this, just click here, right click. Yes, you need to allow. And then you want to, oh, sorry, just click new file here and name it 2.js. Please just name it 2.js. Nothing else fancy or it will not work correctly. Just go up here, new file button, 2.js, and start working on project two. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. Okay, so it's 1 minute from the end of class, and so if you want to, you can work on this a bit, o- like over the course of the week until next class. Next class, I will check up on this project since it is a bit more complicated than our other projects so far. And also, if you're having trouble with this, feel free to search something up to ask ChatGPT while your code isn't working. Just one thing, do not copy people's code or ask ChatGPT to just write this for you because you do not learn anything from that. Okay, then you guys are free to go then. Bye.